Alrighty, so we last left off with getting these coordinates to work along the top and the side of our tic-tac-toe programs. So if I make it a 5 by 5, it'll tell you the coordinates 1, 1, 2, 4, 4, 2, right? Here's how you would get the coordinates. Now what we want to do is create a function that can draw an X or an O, or really add an X or an O to the board so that when we draw it next time, it'll draw out the X and the O. So we're going to make a new function to allow us to draw stuff to the board. So let's call it let's make two functions. Yeah, let's make two functions. We're going to call it DrawX, def DrawX, and then we'll also have a def draw O. It might seem kind of silly, but I think it's going to be a little bit nicer. The reason why is because if I have a def draw X, then the input that I need is just an X and a Y coordinate. And I don't need like a third thing saying if it's an X or an O or whose turn it is or whatever. The function will just draw an X at the coordinates that are given. And same thing with draw O, it'll be an X and a Y, it'll draw an O at those coordinates no matter what, right? This, I think, makes it a little simpler instead of having to have the function deal with the fact that you're drawing an X or an O to the board of the coordinates. It's just going to say, here are the coordinates, draw an X at those coordinates. Some other part of the program will deal with deciding to call the X function or the O function, right? So to draw, let's see, draw X. Oh, you know what we also actually need? We need the X and the Y, but we also need the board that we're drawing on, right? We need the board that we're going to draw on. So that way it takes in the board, so it's holding on to that. It'll take in coordinates, and then the DrawX function will draw on that board an X at those coordinates. If I didn't send it the board, we would have to make a global variable board, and I don't remember how global variables work in Python. It's also the wrong way to do coding anyways. Yeah, maybe I'll like make a tutorial on locality and stuff like that just because it's not the right thing to do. You want to keep stuff as local as possible. Anyways, I'm going off topic. Let's do this. So we have the board, and we have an X and a Y coordinate. So I'm pretty sure you can just do the board at, I think, Y first at X, and we're just going to say equals X. I'm pretty sure that's it. And then you would return the board. So I'm doing Y and then X first because I think I remember from a previous video that the first one was the list of lists, right? Each of these is a list of 5 blanks, and I draw that horizontally, then the second list, then the third list. And so really, which list I'm in is the Y, right? It's along Y coordinates. And that's going to be first because the way your double list, what am I saying? It's not a double list. It's a 2D list. The way that your 2D list works is it gets first which list I'm going to, and then which item in that sublist I'm going to, right? So which list I'm going to, which sublist is really which Y coordinate. And then which item in that sublist is the X coordinate, so we have to do Y and then X. I think that's it. The only issue might be because we labeled this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're probably going to have to toss a +1 over here since we know as the programmer that it indexes at 0 to start, but we gave the user, because they're silly little users, they're not computer scientists, they don't know to start at 0. So we said, all right, fine, we'll start at 1 just for you guys. But that means we're going to have to add a +1 actually to both of these because really, not a +1. We want a -1 to both of these. Because if the user is saying, hey, I want to put an X at the coordinates 1, 1, we know that internally in our program, that's actually stored as 0, 0. So whatever numbers they put in here, we know that really this list should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to have to do this -1 to both to make the user experience a little bit nicer, right? You got to bear that weight so that your user doesn't get confused and they're like, 0, what is that? I don't know that number. It's like whatever. I think that's it. Like, honestly, I think this is all you need. And to test that, I was just getting rid of that draw O, just so we can test drawing some X's. We're going to like try it out, right? So we have the board, we created the board, we printed the board, it's up there. I'm now going to say draw X, and I'm going to say at 2, 2, and then I need to pass it that board. And then I'll print the board one more time. And we'll say board. I'll print the board one more time to see if it actually drew it, right? So we created the board on line 67 using that create board function from, 12 videos ago, or I don't know how long it's been. And then we printed the board using the print board function that we just fixed in the previous video. And now we made our tiny little draw X function, and we're going to draw an X at the coordinates 2, 2. We're going to use the board as the thing we're drawing on, and then we're just going to print the board again. So we should be seeing an X over here if everything works. So let's try it. What am I doing? Which one of these is the play button? I think it's the first one, right? Yeah. So run. We're going to make a 5x5 board. And so then it drew the blank board first, like we said on line 68. And on line 71, or sorry, really on line 70, we took the board, drew an X to the coordinates 2, 2, and then we printed the board again. And look at that. It worked. That's pretty rad. There's a problem with this, though. If I try 7, 2, which would, if it was a 7x7 board, it would be down here. But if it's a 5x5 board and I try drawing it 7, 2, what's gonna happen? I draw a 5x5 board, list assignment index out of range, right? On line 61, in the function, when they tried to put it at index 6 for the Y, which should be, the 7th for the user, it couldn't do it, right? So we should really, the error will run and then your program breaks and the user freaks out. So maybe we should give an error message to say, hey, if you put a bad coordinate in, it's not okay, right? We're not going to try to put it in the board until we know it's safe. So let's say if X is less than 0 or Y is less than 0, really it should be 1, right? Because if they input 0, that means that's never going to be on the board. So if X is less than 1 or Y is less than 1, we are going to print an error message. Right? We'll say cannot, the lowest coordinate is 1, 1. Or you know what? Maybe we should say invalid input too low. And that's just kind of a nice way to do it. All right. So if the numbers are less than 1, if either of the numbers are less than 1, it's not okay. What else? What's another way this could break? By the way, you can make one giant if statement to encapsulate all of it, but I think it's a little easier to organize it as an if they're too small and then if they're too big, right? So elif X is greater than the length of the board, or Y is greater than the length of the board. If those numbers are too big, then it won't fit on the board, so it won't work. And then we'll say print invalid input too high. And this is not identifying if it's the X or Y that's too high, it's just saying it's too high. And then only if either of these don't happen, then I will say, all right, it didn't break by being too low, It didn't break by being too high, so that's the only case I'll ever get into this else where I'll actually try drawing it. This boundary over here might not quite work because we're doing this -1, +1 stuff. So let's try it. We'll run the same program with a 5x5, see if it doesn't work. Invalid input too high, so then it doesn't change anything to the board. It just returns the plain old board, leaves it as blank. Great, so that worked. If I try making it at 6 though, this is where it's right on the edge, right? Because this goes to index. Ooh, actually we'll try two things. If we go to 6, it should not work. And we should get a too high error message. Input too high, awesome. And then if I try to put it at 5, it should be okay, but because it indexes 0, I think it works because length gets you the length. So it will say the length of the list is 5. Let's try it. So I'm running it at 5, and it did plot the point. It did put the X there, X, at 5, 2. Why did this get messed up? Why are these, it looks good up there on that board. There's like an empty space that's coming out of nowhere over here, an extra space over here, right? There's 3 spaces in front of these numbers here, and there are 1, 2, there are only 2 spaces there. Where's that space coming from? Too high, too low. What the heck? What? I think after the board, at the very end of my print function, let's, this is kind of cramped anyways. Let's just add one more blank print just so I get a space, like an extra space between the 2 boards. Let's try running it again. Yeah, we didn't fix the error. We just dealt with it by saying, I don't know why I'm adding an extra space there. I don't know where that's coming from. Probably this end or something like that, actually, if I had to guess. But we fixed the issue anyways. Sweet, this is working, right? So now we can put it at like 5, 3. Try running this. Make it a 5x5 board. 5, 3, it puts it out. Let's draw another X. Let's draw an X at 2, 2, right? Oh, and we have to make sure we're using the board. And now I'll have an X at 5, 3 and at 2, 2. On a 5x5 board at 5, 3 and 2, 2. Hey, we're getting some drawing in there. It's working, right? And if I accidentally make this I've never even tried making it a 1x1 board, right? Oh man, the 1x1 board looked kind of weird. But then it's 2 invalid inputs, right? They're both too high because 5, 2 and 5, 3 and 2, 2, they won't fit. Anyways, this is our little DrawX function. I think the video is long enough. We'll make the draw function probably off screen because like it's just the same thing. You're just gonna literally replace one thing with an O. And then we'll start probably in the next video, get user input so that like instead of just having to do DrawX and DrawX with the numbers, like we'll say, hey, what is the X coordinate? What is the Y coordinate? And then we'll plug it into that function. We might even make loops so that, yeah. All right, so we're done with this video now. Here's our basic DrawX. And, if I don't say so myself, it's looking pretty cool. Make a 7x7 board, draws this X's on the right spot no matter how big the board is. Yeah, see you next time.